Hey folks, it's Rob, and welcome back. Continuing our series on the Monstrous Compendium Appendix for the Mystara setting from 1994. We're still in B, and it's Blackball today. And no, you've not been banned from the club. This is a monster. It's certainly an interesting definition of a monster. Uh, these are in the Immortal box set and in certain modules for that level of play. It's not something I would recommend you just like have your characters run into typically, but let's read this out for you. So, any climate or terrain, frequency is very rare. They are solitary. They have an activity cycle of any time. Their diet is any, see below. Their intelligence is non, so they're non intelligent. They're more of a phenomenon than a monster, in my opinion. Uh, Treasure nil, alignment neutral, because I mean, there's no intelligence there. There's no will, right? Number appearing 1, armor class 10. Oh, trust me, you can hit it easy. That's not the problem. Movement 3, doesn't move fast. You can walk away from it if you're not heavily impaired. Hit dice none. See below. That's probably worrisome, right? To hit AC 0, nil. It has no attacks. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. Well, what are you worried about? Damage per attack nil. Special attacks disintegration. Oh yes, we're getting a touch of what this is about. Special defenses disintegration immune to almost everything. Right, right. Yeah. Why would that be a worry? Right. Magic resistance nil. Size medium. It's 5 foot across. Its morale is fearless. Basically, it's unbreakable. You can't break the morale of a black ball. There's nothing to break. XP value 8,000. The black ball is a mysterious and extraordinarily dangerous opponent. No one knows precisely how this creature comes into being, or even if it's alive. Also called the deadly sphere, it's simply a featureless black globe 5 foot in diameter. It levitates about slowly and silently in apparently random patterns, disintegrating everything in its path. The black ball has no recognizable mind or intelligence. Combat. Whenever solid or liquid matter and the black ball touches, simply disintegrates, no saving throw. The deadly sphere moves freely through anything. As you can see at the picture here, it's just leaving these like round cutouts through things that it's passed through. Uh, you know, just in case you haven't noticed this here, like this curve here, this curve bit here, this curve here, they're all in the same arc as the black ball, right? This ability makes it immune to all weapons or attacks, even though most magical swords are destroyed immediately by contact with the black ball. So, they run up and attack it. They obviously were probably going to hit, and yep, say goodbye to that +5 Vorpal blade that you happen to have. Sucks, right? When encountered, the black ball moves towards the nearest intelligent creature within 60 feet. A deadly sphere's ability to sense intelligence extends in 3 dimensions, so underground adventurers may be surprised by a sudden appearance of a black ball from above or below. The black ball's advance is relentless, moving in a straight line towards its victim, regardless of the physical or magical barriers in its way. Running away is the only way to deal with a black ball, although that may not be possible in a labyrinth or other such situation. If all intelligent life flees beyond its 60-foot direction range, the black ball will resume its seemingly random movement until another intelligent creature is detected. If characters close to melee combat range with the black ball moves towards one of them. The DM should choose randomly. Because of the black ball's slowness, its target can evade the black ball with a successful dexterity check, regardless of initiative and other actions. This check, and not an attack roll, determines the black ball's success. If the dexterity check fails, the black ball catches and disintegrates the opponent. If the characters try to fight the black ball, everything that touches it disintegrates. Immortals can sometimes command a black ball, but it is beyond mortal control. Fortunately, it is extremely rare. It is immune to all spells except carefully worded wish. In addition, if gate is cast within 60 feet of the black ball, it moves towards and then through the portal created. Though this transfers the black ball to another plane, whatever is summoned by the gate spell might be understandably upset. Other spells and magical effects do nothing to a black ball. The black ball's power on the prime material plane, that is, the regular world that you typically are playing, and we haven't talked about planar settings in this game yet. But the prime material plane is functionally the universe that you would typically be playing in, as opposed to like one of the elemental planes or like a layer of hell or heaven or something like that. So just think of that as the regular game setting. So the power of a black ball in the prime material plane is nearly absolute. It can utterly destroy any normal magical item. If black ball touches a rod of cancellation, the rod is destroyed and the black ball is rendered immobile for a round, though it still disintegrates anything it touches it. The black ball is unaffected if it moves into an extra-dimensional space, such as that created by a portable hole. However, the black ball can be moved to another plane if within 10 feet when a portable hole is placed within a bag of holding and a gate to another plane is opened. If a black ball touches a sphere of annihilation, the creature is sent to another plane and everything else within a radius of 200 feet is completely destroyed, including the sphere of annihilation. Artifacts are unique items of greater than mortal power. If one contacts a black ball, the results are unpredictable and highly dangerous, and left to the DM's discretion. Considering the sphere of annihilation blew up everything within 200 feet, I imagine artifact would be even more. Habitat/society. Immortals suspect that black balls are alive after a fashion. Mortal sages have presented several hypotheses, guesses actually, concerning these killers, including the following. 1. Only one black ball exists, and its malevolent force is all that remains of a fiend imprisoned by the immortals. This theory is usually dismissed because the black ball isn't evil. 2. Black balls are created by highly intelligent beings who use it to transport creatures to their own plane for study. This theory is usually dismissed because victims are obviously disintegrated. 3. Black balls are created as destructive instruments by the Old Ones, who are to the immortals as immortals are to humans. This theory receives the most acceptance. No mortal has ever seen more than one black ball at once. So, the Old Ones is kind of like this layer above the Immortals that they talk about in the Immortals box set, or Wrath of the Immortals, if you have that one instead. There's just this nebulous godlike creators who are in the background and never actually do anything, really, except in certain modules, unfortunately, like Wrath of the Immortals. But that's for another day. Who knows if we'll ever get there, but sorry if that's what something you're hoping for. If you are, let me know. Maybe that'll be an hour project in the future. I got Wrath of Immortals sitting on the shelf over there. Ecology. Black balls are destructive forces, disruptive to the environment, but fortunately too rare to cause more than a local disturbance. Observers report that objects and creatures touched by the black ball vanish suddenly, as if simply wiped out of existence. Wizards have said that it seems most like the results of a disintegration spell. However, nothing remains, not even dust or residual essences. Personally, if I was going to use one, I'd probably like to glam it up a little with maybe just like some kind of effect that you can describe as to what happens to, say, like a living or intact creature that encounters the surface, or like, an entire object, Like maybe like this, if you were wielding a sword, it'd be kind of like the column pictured here, where you get like the half of the sword is disintegrated, everything that would have contacted the basically like an effortless swing as you make contact with the ball, but you're left with half a blade, and it maybe kind of throws you off a little because suddenly that like 5 pounds of steel isn't there anymore, right? Um, or maybe it like sucks up some kind of some other creature, right? And you see it for a brief moment, kind of like outlined in white, and then it just ceases to exist, right? Get creative. Use your mind. Use that imagination. That's what this whole thing's about. But that was the Blackball. I always have a fond spot for the Blackball, so I was quite happy to see that come up. Next one is the Brain Collector, which is an Fun monster, and fairly unique. But there is actually probably more than one Brain Collector out there in the universe, as opposed to a Blackball, which theoretically might be the only one. Who knows? Um, Never see a Blackball with an R Blackball, right? Yeah. All right. Brain Collector. Climate terrain, any. Frequency, very rare. They are solitary. Their activity cycle is anytime, so, they're not like diurnal or anything. Diet is brains. Mm, choice. Intelligence is vary, but that's only ranks as like an 11 to 12, right? You think it would be more geniusy, a brain collector, but, guess maybe not very good brains in its collection, right? You are what you eat, right? Treasure, nil. Yeah. Alignment, chaotic neutral. So, it does what it wants. That's like the most, it's basically the most self centered and like id driven alignment is chaotic neutral. Um, Number appearing, 1. Armor class, 2. All right. For a weird brain creature with crab legs or spider legs, I say crab legs. They got little pincers on them. Um, it's got an AC of 2. Maybe it's quite nimble. Movement 18. Hit dice 10. THAC0 is 11. So to hit AC 0, it needs, an 11. Number of attacks, it gets 1 attack. Damage per attack is 1d10 as a bite. Well, it's got some pretty nasty looking teeth, right? Special attacks are spells. Special defenses are spells. Magic resistance is nil. Size is large. It's actually 10 feet long. It's actually quite a large thing. Morale is elite at 14, so there would have to be penalties to be applied if it was to ever break morale. XP value is 2,000. Brain collectors, and here's where we have this from a few episodes ago. You might remember me trying to pronounce this thing. Nesthalgu, double G, really? Nesthalgu, in their own language, are rare creatures who occasionally cross the barrier separating their distant home from the prime material plane. Only near sources of great magical energy, where the fabric of time and space is twisted, can they find small gateways to Mystara, where they collect the brains of intelligent beings. Each specimen of this hideous race has a yellow-orange body, bloated, oily, and amorphous. Actually, that'd be amorphous, not amorphous. Amorphous would be like, oh, it's a V-shape. No, amorphous, blobby, right? With dozens of short, writhing tentacles. 6 crab-like legs allow it to scuttle about. 4 large, yellow, bulging eyes and a tooth-filled maw are set in a bulbous head. The head may also have a number of distinctive lumps, up to 12, each one housing the brain of another intelligent creature. Why are we going to use this name in the description here? Nethalgu do not like any other creature. They speak their own language and that of Diaboli, see Diabolus. They can also speak and comprehend the languages known by any creatures whose brain they've swallowed. So in second edition, like devils and demons and angels were all renamed out of existence theoretically, but they continue to exist. It's just we changed all the names because TSR was trying to somehow avoid that attachment it had from the Satanic Panic in the 80s, but this is the 90s. And it seemed kind of tedious. Dabbly are basically demons. But we'll get into it. So, they can also speak and comprehend the languages known by any creature whose brain they've swallowed. Combat. The brain collector's method of attack is a powerful bite with its razor-toothed jaws, inflicting 1d10 points of damage with each bite that hits. Each brain collector can cast spells depending on how many brains it has collected. Roll 1d12 to determine how many transplanted brains the monster already has in its head. Each transplanted brain can hold a single wizard spell, no higher than 3rd level. These can be chosen by the DM or randomly determined by dice roll, 1d3 for level, and then according to wizard spell lists. A brain collector can attack with its bite or with a single spell in a given round. Although the nature of its intelligence is unfathomable, brain collectors display a considerable tactical cunning in combat, and they will use their available spells to the best possible effect. A brain collector takes great care as it fights to avoid doing damage to the cranium of its opponent. As its name suggests, the brains of the sapient foes are very precious indeed. Habitat/society. Though brain collectors have a completely alien psychology, chaotic neutral is the alignment that best describes them. The Nethalagu do not have hostile intentions as such. Rather, they do not seem to regard humans or other humanoids as people. Brain collectors are known to exist on the demiplane of nightmares, where they hold a mythic position in the folklore of Diabli. Like that of dragons in human tales, Diabli regards Nethalagu as creatures of power, cunning, and inscrutability, and brain collector magic can affect Diabli. While Nethalagu exist on the demiplane of nightmares and the prime material plane, sages agree the creatures are native to neither. Brain collectors may also be found wandering other known planes, particularly the astral or ethereal planes. On the prime material plane, a brain collector prefers ruins and caverns and other places with little light and infrequent disturbances. When a brain collector reaches the prime material plane, it immediately begins acquiring as many brains as it can, as quickly as possible. Each collector can store up to 12 brains at any one time. When these creatures slay humans, demi-humans, or humanoids, they carefully cut away the top of the head with surgical tools that expose the brain, and then swallow it. The swallowed brain then moves into one of several pockets within the brain collector's own head, forming a distinctive lump. For each brain collected, the creature gains the ability to cast one wizard spell, 1st to 3rd level, once per day. Well, we already said that, right? When the Nethalagu has collected its 12 brains, it immediately seeks to return to its home plane. One theory holds that with 12 collected brains, the monsters can, in certain locations, reopen the link to their native world. Fortunately, few 12-brain Nethalagu have been encountered, since they can collect no more brains. They are more eager to move along than to engage opponents. The brain collector may be related in some fashion to Fair, described in the Monstrous Manual. Not contained here. Ecology. Brain collectors have no interest in treasure of any kind. Denizens of the prime material plane are curious objects for dispassionate study and ruthless exploitation. Cattle, in the brain collector's eyes. Nethalagu are predators of the highest order, but they exert little influence on the Mystaran environment. So, it's just a nasty thing to kind of run into, really. The surgical opening of the brain I would put down to, say, like the crab-like pincers, right? Kind of like a carefully cracking open the walnut of the human skull, right? Because where does this have surgical implements, right? Does it come with a weird little crab backpack or something? I guess you could do that, but like it's not pictured, and it seems just to be an kind of bizarre nightmare creature, and like, does it just like delicately chew off the top of a head, maybe, and then, ooh, tasty, tasty jelly inside, right? But it could be an interesting thing for a party to run into. It's certainly dangerous enough and weird enough. Right, one more, I think. This one's the Chevall, and I have run into this several times. It's in several modules, and in the Grand Duchy of the Karamakos Gazetteer. It's kind of like intelligent centaur. I mean, it's a lot like a centaur, honestly, but it's more than that. We'll get into it. Climate terrain: non-Arctic plains, forests, mountains. Frequency: rare. They are solitary. Activity cycle: day. They're omnivores, so they do eat meat actually. Intelligence is vary, much like the previous monster, 11 to 12. Treasure: this is the first monster we've had today that actually can have treasure. M, Q, and C, at its lair. They are neutral good. 1d3 a pair, so you run into 1 to 3 of them. Armor class is 2 as a horse or 5 as a centaur. Movement 24 as a horse, 18 as a centaur. Hit dice 7. Thaco, to hit AC 0, 13. Number of attacks, it gets 3. Its damage per attack will be 1d6 for 2 hooves and 1d8 for a bite, or 1d6 for 2 hooves and by weapon in centaur form, right? Clearly pictured here in centaur form, it has a club and a bow, right, and equipment. Special attacks: summon and command horses. Special defense: silver or +1 or better magical weapons to hit this creature. So it's got enchanted protection, much like say for example a werewolf. Magic resistance is nil. Size is large, 5 foot tall as a horse, or 7 to 8 foot tall as a centaur. You ever been around a decent sized horse? A 5 foot tall horse is 5 foot tall at the shoulder. So keep that in mind for what your relative scale and size. They have champion morale as a horse or elite as a centaur. So they're a little more in their head when they're a centaur, and these are intelligent creatures. So XP value 650. The sylvan creature can change at will between 2 forms: an intelligent horse and a powerful centaur. As a horse, a Chevall may be any color, though a given individual does not change shades. It is typically as large as a light warhorse. In centaur form, it has the upper torso and arms of a human being and the lower body of a horse. This form tends to be somewhat smaller than most centaurs on average, and its ears, unlike those of standard centaur, are pointed and elfin. In either form, a Chevall can talk to and understand horses using sounds which, to human ears, are nothing more than the neighs and whinnies. Using this whinnying language, a Chevall can command any horse, wild or domesticated, to do its bidding. A paladin's warhorse and other unusual mounts with average intelligence or higher are immune. In centaur form, a Chevall can speak common, the language of centaurs, and woodland sylvan tongue, elvish for shorthand, right? Although, I mean, maybe your elves are like, hill people. You do you. But I'm going to point out here a fine opportunity for when it talks to horses in front of the players to go ahead and play up some of that, winning and having a bit of fun, right? Go, that kind of thing. If you've not been around horses, maybe watch a video or two. But if you get an excited and talkative horse, it'll make plenty of noise. As a horse, a Chevall can kick and bite as noted above. This is, the combat section, I should announce that. In centaur form, it also bites, but usually wields a wooden club or short bow instead of kicking. In either form, it can only be harmed by silver weapons or magical weapons of +1 or better enchantment. Once per day, a Chevall can magically summon 1d3 medium war horses which arrive in 1d4 rounds. Habitat/Society. Chevalls strive to ensure the well-being of all horses. Once native to the plains, they now appear anywhere that wild or captive horses exist. They often go about in horse form, checking on the welfare of horses in the service of humans, demi-humans, and humanoids. If a Chevall finds a horse that is unhappy with its lot because of maltreatment or neglect, the Chevall will not rest until it has freed the animal. A Chevall travels alone or in groups of up to 3. If 3 Chevalls are encountered, there's a 50% chance that the group is a mated pair and a foal, which has half the hit dice and inflicts half the damage as adult specimens. Foraging sustains Chevalls as they travel. They favor vegetables and grains and may, in horse form, gain nourishment from grazing, although they consider grass very bland food and prefer tasty oats and barley. While they are omnivorous by nature, most Chevalls adhere to a vegetarian diet. This may stem from moral conviction or sheer habit. Chevalls may accumulate some treasure during their travels. They often trade this for food and goods, bargaining with centaurs and other friendly creatures. Ecology. Although animals such as dogs are wary of the scent of Chevalls, horses never fear them. Chevalls hate wolves and are the blood enemies of werewolves. According to Chevall lore, Chevalls were created long ago by an immortal who wished to protect horses mistreated by their human masters. There's a Chevall speed table here in horse and centaur form. So walking, they move 12 and centaur 9. Trot for a horse form is 24 and centaur form 18. The canter, which is like, third gear for a horse, is 36 and a centaur form 27. And then the full out gallop, where actually they're sometimes actually not really in true contact with the ground, 48 in horse form and centaur form 36. A Chevall can carry no more than 260 pounds and still travel at full speed. It can travel at half speed while carrying up to 390 pounds and can move at 1/3 speed while carrying up to 520 pounds. As noted in the Player's Handbook, Chapter 14, in a day of travel over good terrain, a creature can travel a number of miles equal to twice its normal movement rate, a trot. That is, a Chevall in horse form can cover 48 miles. In dire circumstances, a Chevall can push itself to a canter or gallop. A canter can be safely maintained for 2 hours or a gallop or for 1 hour, but then the Chevall must walk for an hour before increasing its speed again. A Chevall will not gallop if loaded with enough material to reduce its normal movement rate by half, nor will it canter or gallop if carrying a load which will reduce its normal movement speed to 1/3 normal. They're actually pretty neat creatures. It's interesting to include them, especially if you happen to have lycanthropes in your campaign. Or you can use them just as a kind of thing that's amongst the horses, right? Their entire thing is about looking after the welfare of horses. So you can even use them as a hook to be like, I want your assistance in rescuing some horses I'm aware of that have been captured, right? Uh, if he thinks the party's like good folk, and if they're not good folk, well, that's your own issue, and maybe consider using something else. But yeah, that was 3 neat monsters. Thank you very much for watching here today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and join us again next time when we carry on. I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.